Oh, that's so nice. Let me switch. Thank you.
Yeah, you sure know.
Yeah, what should I get? I'm holding the banner. Yes. And then do you want to get John this side? He won't hold the banner.
Somebody come around this way.
They're gonna speak then. Somebody gonna be standing there. Take a step back. Okay, y'all bring the banner down because they want to be able to see the whole picture. Oh, the whole banner. Y'all hold the banner so they can see the banner. So hold the top of it. Yeah, curving up. Yeah, and then y'all can get a poster. Let me get us a poster. Thank you.
Do you need anything, James?
Oh, wait, you're so trying to seriously get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, member.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So the
Come on in, please. Come on in. Raoul, wherever, yeah, please come in. So if you could you close that door, please? Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Chairman, thank you for being here. So hello, everyone. I'm Senator Ed Markey. Thank you for joining us today. We're here today to applaud the much-needed pause by the Biden administration on fossil gas exports from the United States to the rest of the world. And to tell you that our movement for the climate, for consumers, and for environmental justice is only going to keep picking up steam here and across our country. It is a movement. And I'm proud to stand here with my colleagues and my partners who are joining me in the fight against surging fossil fuel exports and for a more livable future for everyone in the United States and around the world. As climate fuel disasters ravage our communities, we know we need to be running towards a clean energy future. But instead of turning off the tap on fossil fuels, our country has been flooding the international markets with gas. We have become the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas, but that's not enough for the fossil fuel executives. United States natural gas export volumes are expected to double in the next 4 years. The proposed and in-progress LNG export projects alone are estimated to be as bad as for the climate as more than 500 new coal-burning plants in the United States. And to give you a comparison, we only have 217 coal-burning plants in the United States. So that's how bad these new LNG facilities are in terms of the impact upon our climate. Natural gas, contrary to the greenwashing in its name, is not a clean fuel. Methane is actually often far worse for the climate than carbon dioxide in the near term. What do we get for all of these planet-destroying emissions? While Big Oil and House Republicans say that LNG exports are good for the economy, I'm here to tell you that soaring LNG exports actually costs big bucks, with Americans spending $111 billion more on natural gas as exports soared from 2021 to 2022. The less natural gas we have in the United States that we send overseas is the more consumers in the United States. Companies in the United States have to pay for the remaining natural gas that we have here. Big consumer impact in our country. Big oil and big gas are leading a get-rich-quick scheme. Instead of protecting our communities, they are profiteering from our communities. And the majority of current and future export projects are in low-income and vulnerable Black, brown, and indigenous communities, putting lives at risk for corporate profits and sending justice, environmental justice, up in smoke. While many justify the rapid natural gas export build-out as critical for European energy security, the reality is that European gas demand is not only already met, it is declining in Europe. the natural gas industry, the LNG industry, wants to get them addicted for another generation when they want to move to renewable energy, and they already are. I've long been fighting the dangers that natural gas poses to our communities and our climate, from improving pipeline safety standards for LNG transportation to fighting for safety measures at ports. And my Ban Fossil Fuel Exports Act would shut off the spigot once and for all. And we ultimately must pass legislation to ban it. Our country doesn't need more oil and gas facilities and exports. What it needs is an oil change, a change to renewables. These companies will continue to feed their corporate greed while pumping American consumers for bigger profit unless we stop them. So I hope Republicans in the House realize that their LNG logic will explode our long-term chance at a livable future. And I hope the Department of Energy will realize that more gas exports are not in the public interest of the United States or the health of our planet. We can't continue exporting gas and importing volatility and pollution. So we thank all of the activists who are here with us today. They have been leading. This is a movement which created the momentum, which led to the pause, and we now have to make that pause permanent. And we are here today to say that is going to be our goal. So let me begin by introducing my colleague and co-chair on the Senate Climate Change Task Force and the chairman of the Budget Committee in the United States Senate, Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island. Welcome, Sheldon.
Thank you, Eddie. We've done our best to turn the Senate Budget Committee into the Senate How Fossil Fuel is Going to Ruin Our Budget Committee. Let me thank Fossil Fuel Media for pulling this together. Let me thank Eddie Markey for setting up this room. He is our landlord. Let me thank all the activists who are here and all of my colleagues in the House. Thank God for this pause. I want to really send some appreciation to the Biden administration for this decision, which is not only supported by really important environmental needs, but also common sense. Yes. By the time you have extracted the natural gas, the fossil gas, by the time you have put it into a pipe, by the time you have sent it to a pressurization facility, by the time you have used other energy to pressurize it into liquefied natural gas, by the time you have then put it onto a ship, by the time you've driven that ship across to its final destination, and then depressurized it and put it back in and moved it to its burner tip, it is probably worse than local coal.
Yes, yes.
And the pause will give us a chance to prove that point.
Yes.
And that does not even count the associated methane leakage, because this is an industry that has been wildly irresponsible about its methane leakage. So I'll add one quick additional kudos to the Biden administration for standing up a methane enforcement task force to use satellite data to go after methane leaks and get them shut down. Last point, since everybody is concerned about the security situation in Europe, the Europeans themselves have said they don't need this LNG. They don't need it in the short term, and they don't need it in the medium term. And by the time we get to the long term, if we're still pumping this much gas, we have failed on climate. So that is not a real concern. The real concern is the emissions. The pause will give us a chance to prove the point that Eddie has been so actively championing. Thank you all for being here, and I get to turn it over to the very distinguished ranking member, Grijalva.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Senator Markey, for hosting us, and to my colleagues from the House for being here. You know, President Biden took a very important and bold action, and I want to thank him for that. To pause pending applications to the LNG export terminals and the facilities is an important step, because it's the first time in history that an administration will take a real hard look at how these facilities impact climate crisis, frontline communities, and whether they're actually in the public's interest. I believe that it goes without saying, polluting communities in our country, across the world, expanding fossil fuels is not in the public's interest. Frontline communities across this country, and I've been proud to associate and work with them across this country, have been sounding the alarm on fossil fuels for decades upon decades. These communities, majority Black, brown, indigenous, and poor, have been sidelined for too long in this very, very important issue that faces the American people. Their voices are finally being heard. And unfortunately, as we all know, House Republicans have a different perspective on the matter. They stopped, they paused, they listened to the executives from polluting industries and decided that one of the things they were going to do is to make sure that this threat to have justice in the discussion about climate and the climate crisis should not happen, and that the urgency of the climate crisis is not real. Late last night, the Republican majority called an emergency rules meeting. A meeting to pass on a non-binding resolution that lays out that all the polluters over people agenda that they've been promoting forever. And it reads to me like one of those heartbreak letters, you know, one of those love letters that says sorry. And it's a letter to the fossil fuel industry from the majority here, saying you've been scorned by President Biden, we're here for you. And they're crying over polluters finally being asked to account for their climate and environmental justice impacts. They can't stand that we're finally coming to the polluting industry that's lining their and their allies' pockets and saying we need accountability and we need public transparency on the issue. Last year, hand in hand with impacted communities and frontline communities, we fought H.R. 1, the Republicans' Polluters Over People Act, and pushed that the topic and the necessity and the urgencies of environmental justice be folded in and part of the overall discussion on our response to the climate crisis. But it's never enough. It's never enough. And so now we are facing, again, in a few weeks, we're going to face again. In response to this LNG pause, we'll be having Energy Week, brought to you by the Republican majority in the House. Rehashing the same fights over H.R. 1, rehashing the urgency and the necessity that the world as we know it will collapse, jobs will disappear, the economy will crash. We will hear that over and over and over again. Those lies are exactly that, lies. We will lay out why the climate crisis demands an urgent and wholesale transition away from fossil fuels. We'll remind and again stress to them of the health impacts and disparities caused by the polluting industry. And we'll demonstrate that our public lands and public waters are special and sacred and are worth protecting, not selling off to the highest bidder. And we'll show them that a cleaner future for all of us means an end to a dirty business as usual, and a much brighter and healthier future for the generations and generations of people that are not here today, but need to be here in a healthy environment, in a strong nation that protects them and does not sell them out. Thank you.
And now from the state of California, someone who left being a lawyer at the NRDC to being a leader on climate issues on the floor of the House of Representatives, Jared Huffman from California.
Thank you, Senator. Hi, everyone. Jared Huffman from the North Coast of California. Really proud to join these amazing colleagues here today and all of these wonderful frontline advocates and all of you in thanking President Biden and his administration for taking a very important and necessary step toward confronting the climate crisis. This crisis and its catastrophic impacts are already being felt in terrible ways. We see it every day. We see it all over the world, and we're running out of time to prevent it from getting much worse. And that's why it is such a shame that we've lost so much time, because the fossil fuel industry has been allowed to drive energy policy in this country. We don't have time to keep pretending that natural gas is a climate solution. We don't have time to keep pretending that LNG is clean energy, or that massive new pipeline networks and export terminals and other LNG infrastructure is somehow responsive to the climate crisis. It's actually going to make that crisis a lot worse. So we know that dignifying these lies, the fossil fuel industry gets very rich. And that's what this is all about. They want to keep getting richer at the expense of our climate and the American consumers. But thankfully, our Department of Energy is now going to start looking at the whole picture. That's why this is such great news. They're going to look at the huge methane emissions of this dirty industry. They're going to look at the impacts to environmental justice, frontline communities, public health, our economic stability, and our national security. And if they look honestly at all of these things, I believe they will find that these methane bombs, these carbon bombs that we keep approving as part of fossil fuel business as usual, are simply too costly, too dangerous, and too destructive for our planet to allow them to keep moving forward. So I want to thank all the members here who've joined me in this fight. A special shout out to you, Senator Markey. It's been my pleasure to work side by side with you on these issues as we try to phase out fossil fuel, stop dirty energy exports. Last November, we joined together in a letter to the Biden administration calling on them to do just this, to take an honest look at the downside of all of these energy exports. And we were able to get it signed by more than 60 of our colleagues in Congress. So we've got allies here, and we are making progress. And now we're just a couple months later celebrating this White House decision. So I think we should appreciate what happens when we come together and create that constructive pressure for good policy. It does matter. All of your work really does matter. But also, as we thank the Biden administration for this, I hope all of you are ready for some political whiplash, because this do-nothing Congress that can't manage to govern in any way is about to start moving at light speed to rally the House Republicans in particular in defense of the fossil fuel industry. This gravy train of theirs has to end at some point if we want to have a livable planet for our children and future generations. So brace for political whiplash, but let's keep up this great work together. We're going to have to stay vigilant in the face of these maneuvers that are coming in the weeks ahead. I'm so grateful to all of my colleagues and these amazing advocates. We've made historic progress in the last few years. We really have. But we cannot take our eye off the ball. We've got to stay focused because we are truly running out of time. And we've got to win faster and bigger than ever before. So thank you so much. I'm going to hand off to a great climate champion, a new member of Congress from the state of Virginia, Jennifer McClellan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for that introduction, and greetings, everyone. I am excited to be here today to celebrate something in the 118th Congress after all of the chaos that we have had since I've been here less than a year. And when we have gotten anything done, it's because Democrats have said we're going to put people over politics, and instead the House Republicans continue to want to put pleadings over people. But last year I was very excited to help lead, as you heard, 60 of our colleagues in calling on the Department of Energy to update its public interest determination process for LNG exports. And I'm thrilled that the administration has now heard our call, and decades of grassroots advocacy from people like the ones in this room and from communities all across the country. The science is clear. We are facing a code red climate emergency, and we have to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels while accelerating our transition to cleaner, greener technologies. And in the process, we will create jobs. The existing process for LNG exports did not fully or accurately consider how those exports impact our worsening climate crisis, vulnerable environmental justice communities, or domestic energy prices. And in fact, the Department of Energy had never rejected an LNG application based on the potential negative impacts on the American people. The unfettered expansion of LNG export infrastructure would lock us into an increasing greenhouse gas emissions for decades to come, and that is not what the current moment calls for. Thanks to President Biden and Secretary Granholm, this recent pause is a major step forward and provides us with the opportunity to incorporate updated climate science and more robust consideration of environmental justice concerns in this process. That is long overdue. Historically marginalized communities face a host of environmental justice and public health disparities, from higher concentrations of air and water pollution, increased cases of cancer and respiratory illness, and the destruction of their ecosystems. As the first Black Congresswoman from Virginia, I am keenly aware of the disproportionate harms low-income communities and communities of color have borne at the hands of the fossil fuel industry, including in my own district. As the successor of the late Donald McClellan, I am just as committed as he was in building on his legacy to continue environmental justice work that is so important to our district. And as one of the few members of Congress who is a mother of young children, I want my son and daughter to be able to rest assured in knowing that they will have a healthy, livable planet to grow up in for themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. Just this morning, extreme House Republicans convened to formally denounce the Biden-Harris administration's action on LNG, and we will continue our work as House Democrats to fight back against extreme Republicans' relentless attacks on our climate solution, because our future depends on it. And now it is my pleasure to turn it back to our host. Okay.
Thank you, Congresswoman, so much. Great job. And when you Google the word progressive, Camilla Jayapal's picture comes up. So, great Congresswoman from the state of Washington.
Thank you so much, Senator Markey, for your incredible leadership and championship. Thank you to Senators Whitehouse and I see Senator Merkley here as well. And of course to my colleagues who are here with us. It is just such a privilege to be part of a great movement. To the organizers, nothing happens without you. Literally nothing happens without the work on the ground. And I say that as a former community organizer myself. This movement doesn't work without the voices of people and the organizing of people on the ground. I stand here, my name is Jayapal. I represent Seattle, Washington in the House of Representatives, and I also have the great honor of being the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. We have 103 members in our caucus. Many are here today, and we made it a priority at the very beginning to push for environmental justice and Justice 40 in our agenda, but also to put together a list of executive actions that the Biden administration could take on its own, recognizing the situation that we're in, to make sure that we are centering environmental justice and the communities most affected by the climate crises and pollution. This agenda pushes the administration to use all of the tools in its toolbox, because there are many tools that the administration has in its toolbox to transition to clean energy as quickly as possible, while these do-nothing Republicans continue to bicker and stall and pass absolutely nothing that is of consequence to making people's lives better on. So as progressives, as activists, as organizers, we don't often take the time to celebrate when we get a victory. We're too focused on the next victory because we always think that what we have is not enough. We know that to be the case. That's why we're activists and progressives. That's why we're embedded in our communities. But today is a moment to say this is a big win for communities across the country. With this decision, The Biden administration is deepening its commitment to protect our environment and fight back against the devastating effects of climate change. And this is a critically important step, and it is directly responsive to a request made by dozens of Progressive Caucus members in the House. And, you know, we think the Progressive Caucus members in the Senate are just honorary members, so there's no technical, but every one of the champions you've seen today has been leading on this issue in the Senate, and of course responsive to communities on the ground and the tragedies that we are seeing across the country. By pausing new LNG exports to analyze the harmful impacts of methane on the planet and the health risks of this pollution on frontline communities, the president is siding with science over big oil and the climate justice movement over CEOs, special interests, and their pockets full of profits. LNG plants release air pollutants that threaten the health of our planet and the people who live nearby. The sulfur dioxide, the carbon monoxide, the other emissions cause lung damage, asthma, heart attacks, and even inhibit oxygen reaching the heart and the brain. Communities and advocates, especially from the Gulf Coast, but all over, including in my district, where we have similar issues, have been sounding the alarm for years about the harms of cancer and disease that LNG air pollution poses. And when so many proposed and existing LNG export terminals are near Black, brown, and low-income communities, I want you to know that is not an accident, and it is an issue of environmental justice that has to be at the center of all of the work that we do. So later today, you can clap for that, sure. Later today, I am heading. Wow, that was how powerful you all are. Later today, I am heading to one of those frontline communities, Port Arthur, Texas. I know we've got some folks here from Port Arthur with Senator Whitehouse to just see firsthand the devastation that has been left behind by the LNG plants in operation before this pause. I look forward to using that trip as an opportunity to continue to fight for additional executive actions to help the communities that are already affected, but also to make sure that we get the right results out of this pause and this review. Let us be clear, there are a lot of lobbying interests for big gas and big oil right outside the door across this Capitol, in the, right at the doors of the administration, that we would be telling another story. We need to tell our stories, your stories, and make sure that they are centered in every policy that comes forward. So thank you all so much. So grateful to be in this fight with you and with our champion. And I'll turn it over to my colleague who has been a real champion on climate change issues, Sean Casten from the great state of Illinois.
Thank you all. Thanks to all the activists who are here. Thanks to all my amazing colleagues from the House and the Senate. For all you do to keep reminding the activists, the folks here, to keep reminding our more Paleolithic colleagues that while the laws of the United States may be negotiable, the laws of physics are not, and we have to bear these consequences. But speak to people who are not just climate deniers, but really, really greedy climate deniers. And my words to you are thank you. Bear with me, I got some facts, but facts like Shakir's hips do not lie. I pulled this up as I was coming over here. This is from the Energy Information Administration. Over the last decade, U.S. natural gas production has increased 70%. Over the last decade, U.S. natural gas consumption has only increased by 34%, half as much. Well, where's balance gone, right? Well, natural gas exports have increased by 500% during that same period. The projects, the export terminals that are already permitted in this area had nothing to do with the decision. The projects that are already permitted and under construction are going to double that export capacity within the next 3 years. That's already locked in. Now you may ask, why am I thanking greedy climate-denying Americans for that? The reason why the natural gas industry has become an exporter is thanks to our greedy climate-denying Americans. Every American who put a solar panel on the roof of their house did it because they liked the idea that they could put money in their bank account instead of giving it to their utility. Every American factory owner who decided to invest in energy efficiency and make their factory more efficient did it so that they could return money to their greedy shareholders rather than sending it to their utility. Right? The oil demand in the United States hasn't budged. It's so flat at about 20 million barrels a day for the last decade. Gas demand is going up, but it's not going up as fast as economic growth is. Coal demand is actually down 40%. That is thanks to all those greedy Americans. And I'm going to give you another fact. 2022, I suspect some of you may remember this, the big explosion at the Freeport LNG terminal. The Department of Energy, in their analysis of what happened to U.S. natural gas markets when that plant blew up, the price of natural gas in the United States fell by 30%. Because supply and demand is real. I know that's hard for some people to understand, but if you don't export it, there's more supply in the market and the price goes down. So what we need now is for Americans to get greedy. Like, if our goal is to destroy our frontline communities, destroy our wildlands, to drive the planet to the brink of extinction, let's export more natural gas. If our goal is to rise the price of energy, including natural gas, to American consumers, let's export more natural gas. If, on the other hand, we're going to look at the clear language of the Natural Gas Act that says that the Department of Energy cannot approve these facilities unless it is the United States national interest, all we have to do is remind ourselves that last time I checked, there were a lot more American energy consumers than there were energy producers. And if we put them first, we're going to be good. So I appreciate what the White House has done to delay this decision until November. Now let's get the job done in November.
You're here.
Thank you all.
And my partner in the Senate, the leader of the Keep It in the Ground movement, the great Jeff Merkley from the state of Oregon.
Yes. Staff you any day.
Thank you. Well, I get to that cleanup, and I just have a very simple message, and maybe hold up all of our signs here. LNG equals climate chaos, and defend environmental justice. Why is this such an important message? Because there has been a myth about fossil gas that we have to tell the truth to. It is a truth to power moment. So let's understand this. Fossil gas, call it natural gas if you want, that's the industry term, I'll call it fossil methane gas, is as bad as coal when it's used here in the United States in terms of climate. But when you put in additional energy and turn it into a liquid, additional energy to ship it across the seas, it is worse than local coal. So we've had a lot of conversation about coal, but there's been a pretense that somehow fossil gas is better, but it is not. That is not the science. So here we are in the United States of America, and we are having a moment where we're saying we should bring a climate test to fossil gas. Isn't that obvious? We should be bringing an environmental justice lens to additional facilities. Isn't that obvious? We should take into account the economic impact on Americans, as Sean just pointed out. Isn't that obvious? And yet, despite these three obvious factors, the fossil gas industry, big oil, big gas, they're crying crocodile tears. Well, let's understand this. We have 7 facilities right now that are exporting gas with a huge increase, as Sean just pointed out. We have another 6 U.S. LNG facilities that have been approved and a Mexican facility that will export U.S. gas. That's another 7. We have 7 more U.S. facilities that have been fully approved with licenses, with permission. 3 more Mexican facilities that have been approved to export U.S. gas. That's 14 additional facilities on top of the 7 we have right now. All of that's before we get to CP2. So despite these additional 17 facilities, the
the fossil gas world is saying, oh my gosh, somehow this will prevent us from being able to export what Europe needs. Let's understand that that argument, we saw it in the Wall Street Journal, we saw it in the Washington Post, it is absolutely wrong. Europe is being well served by the export facilities we have now, and we'll have additional 17 facilities in the line. Additional facilities will triple the amount of gas. We are currently at 14 billion cubic feet per day. These will add an additional 31 billion cubic feet per day before we get to CP2. Finally, the administration has said enough is enough. No new permits until we bring the lens of climate, the lens of the economics for the family, the lens of environmental justice, and I say absolutely that's the right thing to do, and we're going to support it 100%. Now, the Washington Post also said, well, we want to flood the world with fossil gas to prevent Russia from exporting fossil gas. That is the path, LNG to climate chaos. Does not everyone in America know that we hit 100 degrees in the ocean off of Florida this last year? That the Amazon River hit 100 degrees and the river dolphins were dying? That Lahaina burned to the ground? That we had the hottest day, the hottest month,
hottest year in human history last year? This is the crisis we're addressing. And we have to bring the climate lens, the climate test, the economic test, the environmental justice test to all additional facilities. The Biden administration has said, let's have a pause and let's apply these tests. And when they apply those tests, we're going to say, hell no to any additional LNG permits. So big oil, they're powerful. They have a tremendous amount of money that they put into campaigns for those folks they want to get elected, and they have the dark money to attack and smear those they don't want elected. What we have is the honesty of the science, and we have the passion of the advocates assembled here before. I say the science and the advocates are stronger than the big oil, and we have to win these battles again. We have the facts on our side. We have the vision of a better future on our side, and we have the people on our side. Let's make sure the people win. Thank you.
So, this is the movement, and we know there's a movement on the other side. Donald Trump always starts with the same sentence. As soon as he's elected, it's going to be drill, baby, drill. And what the people behind us are saying, no, we're going to plug in, baby, plug in to renewable energy, and we're going to stop this polluting empire from endangering especially those who are most vulnerable, the black, the brown, the indigenous, the poor communities that have always been those which have been exploited. And to speak for them, right now we're going to hear from Rochetta, Rochetta Ozan, who is going to represent the Vessel Project of Louisiana. So welcome, Rochetta, and come on in. Beautiful. Come on in.
Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not sometime in the convenient future.
Yes.
It is today that our best work can be done. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed of time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime. These are the words from the great Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. Good morning. I am Rochetta Ozan. I am the founder, director, and CEO of the Vessel Project of Louisiana. And I stand here today not as an activist. You won't see that on any of my resumes or on any of my social media accounts. You'll see environmental justice advocate. But I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, The people behind me are mothers, fathers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, land protectors, water protectors. We represent the communities that are at stake here. We represent the people who are literally dying because of decisions that are made here in DC. Today, on the first day of Black History Month, I stand here as a little Black girl from a little town in Mississippi called Ruleville, home of Fannie Lou Hamer. Many of you have heard of Fannie Lou Hamer, and I am very, very pleased to have her blood flowing through me, her fight flowing through me, because I plan to continue to fight. The celebration is over. Yes, the Biden administration made a monumental decision in the fight for climate justice by announcing this pause. But with myself and James Hyatt and Mr. John Allaire and Breon and Miss Deborah and Miss Lois and Mr. Paul and so many others, when we walk outside our doors and we continue to see the flares and the pollution, we continue to smell the chemicals and the smoke and the rotten eggs, we know that the fight is not over. We could only celebrate momentarily. We ate a piece of cake and we drank a glass of wine, but we had to continue to fight, and that's why we're here today. The Department of Energy needs to go beyond simply updating studies when making public interest determinations. We are the public and we say it is not in our best interest. It is crucial for the DOE to thoroughly analyze the factors used in these determinations to ensure they accurately assess the full risk associated with LNG exports, the risk that you don't see, the risk that we face every day when we're behind the trucks that are transporting the different materials that they need, the risk of driving over an outdated bridge in Calcasieu Parish, the risk of eating seafood from waters that have been polluted, being told that we can't eat the fat from the crabs. That's the best part. Being told that we can only eat 2 pounds of fish a month. Do I look like I eat less than 2 pounds of fish? No. I was able to feed my family from going to one fishing trip and my 17 and 19-year-old sons going crabbing on the side of the roads. And I could take that and I could freeze it and I could make gumbo and I could make fish stew and I could make coubillon and all of these dishes that you probably don't know about. But I urge you all to come to Louisiana. Get some of the joy. It's the best time to come. It's carnival season. Mardi Gras starts in a few weeks. Come to our communities and see why we are fighting. We know that the other side is fear-mongering. We know that they are spreading lies. But when you come and you see our communities for yourselves, you will see that there is nothing untruthful about what we're saying. When you smell the air and you get the headaches, you will know why we are so passionate about these fights. President Biden, thank you for this decision and for making this announcement and was siding for communities. But Sharon Levine, who's standing behind me, has begged for you to come to the Gulf Coast, come to Cancer Alley and see what we're dealing with. And we extend that invitation. Again, we are very happy with this decision, but each of us here know that the fight must continue. Thank you.
I think I'm the last one standing here. 2 more speakers. We have 2 more speakers. You want me to introduce them?
Yes, please.
Okay. Who have we got?
Travis Darth.
Stage whisper here. Just come up.
Travis Darth.
Travis, would you kindly introduce yourself? All right, thank you.
All right, Travis.
Hi, my name's Travis Dordor. I'm a commercial fisherman down in Cameron Parish, as well as the founder of Fishermen involved in sustaining our heritage. It's a coalition of fishermen as well as activists band together to stop this industry, right? I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of the past. In the past, all the elected officials from Cameron made all the decisions speaking for the Cameron people. And the Cameron people that actually live in Cameron were not for this plant. It's all the people north of that was for this plant, so the voices weren't heard from the actual people and the fishermen until now. I thank y'all for this pause, but at the same time, in the present, right now as we speak, Calcasieu 1, CP1 is still taking docks. They're still destroying estuaries. They're still killing shrimp and oysters. We've paid a hell of a price with our lives. I think that's enough.
Yes, it's enough.
Enough is enough.
My wife is on the way to the hospital right now. We lived with this thing. We was there before Calcasieu passed. And people are getting sick. That's undeniable. The fishing has decreased over 50% in the first year. And that's very easy to prove. You know, how can this be in the public interest? We're known for our rich culture and heritage. And you mean to tell me that that's worth nothing? Louisiana's known for its seafood, its shrimp, its crabs, its oysters.
Yes, right.
Not liquefied natural gas.
No.
That doesn't even belong in the same sentence. I mean, it's kind of stupid if you think about it. In the future, I believe, although I am happy about this pause, that we're not going to stop fighting them. We're never going to stop fighting them because it's gotten only worse.
That's right.
Only worse. They're still taking docks away from the fishermen. People are still getting sick. You know, you can't turn a blind eye to that.
That's right.
I'm saying your life is the price to pay.
That's right.
And in the future, they need to hold Venture Global responsible.
Yeah.
Venture Global needs to pay for the damages that are done already. Not for what they wanted to do at CP2, but for the damages that are done now.
Yes.
And with that being said, if they don't, I don't know what the cleanest solution is. I don't know. What I do know is that this isn't it.
That's right.
That's right.
This isn't it. They've given us a death sentence that we do not deserve.
Yes.
And in the future, if they don't decide on an alternative route, is death.
Yes.
It's time for them to stop speaking for the Cameron people.
Yes.
I'm actually their target now. They hate me. The fishermen have never been so united. They love me. But the people that are pro LNG down there hate me more than anything now. But my organization has no intentions on slowing down on this fight at all. We're gonna keep hammering. Anytime industry decides that they're gonna go take people's lives like this, whether it be in Texas, we support you.
Yes.
Chester, we support you.
Yes.
Sulphur,
Yes.
we got your back.
Yes.
And we're not gonna stop until they stop.
Yes.
That's right.
So thank you for having me here, and I appreciate y'all hearing me out.
Thank you.
I'm the last speaker. Iteyapale, Mawutapele, Metnawazo, Mempopet. Greetings to you all in my language. I bring a little bit of home from Texas to y'all. My name is Krista Mencias. I am a tribal member of the Carisoko Mecrudo tribe of Texas. What a lot of people don't understand is we were the biggest little tribe you've never heard of.
Yes.
And when I say that is that our people the history of our people is rich in the culture, in the land, and the story of what Texas is today, but has been lost because of the history that is actually being told. Let me start by saying, like, this pause from Biden is a little win. Is a win. It is a win, and we'll take it. We'll take it a win for a lot of my family and friends that are standing here behind me. You know, they achieved so much and have worked so hard to even get this pause. But unfortunately, for what I'm protecting at the end of the Gulf in Brownsville, it doesn't stop. I'm trying. The area that we are protecting is still being destroyed, And throughout the Texas Gulf Coast, if you go to each of their homes, you see these large facilities. I've been there. It's heartbreaking. It's hard to breathe. I have no concept of understanding how somebody could destroy their humanity. You want to talk about a science? It's humanity that is. It is their homes, their families, the future generations to come after them that are being destroyed by these LNG terminals. And with that, when I say that, and if you come to visit, come visit us in Brownsville. You understand why we are trying so hard to stop Texas LNG, Rio Grande LNG from destroying something so beautiful that is the last untouched part of the Gulf Coast in Texas and Louisiana. There's a reason why this part of this land is so beautiful and so rich in history and culture, just like their homes are. The indigenous peoples, we start with the indigenous people, their history and their culture throughout the Gulf Coast of Texas and Louisiana, to all their communities now, and how rich the Black history is, and why these LNGs have destroyed and come into their communities to destroy what their humanity looks like, or into the brown communities and the people, poor communities, taken away from our fishermen and our shippers and their lifestyle, because they want to forget us.
Yes.
But we're here to say no.
Yes.
We're here to say we don't want it at all.
Yes.
We don't want it anywhere.
Yes. Yes.
And if you need to come to our places, come see what we live with day to day. Come see why we fight harder to protect the history of our land, the history of our people, and to protect each other. That's why we stand here today.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Y'all have a great day. I guess we're done.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done. Round of applause for all the organizers.